I want to talk to you about team, getting the right people on the bus, as Stephen Covey would say. We're talking here about putting the people around you. It's a conversation I'm having a lot. That's basically how I come up with this content, right? You know, I think what have I done? 5 coaching calls today with our clients. It's like, what are the recurring themes that keep coming up? That's kind of how I work out what we're going to teach. And a lot of the ones at the moment are team. People are saying, I'm maxed, I'm hitting my limit, and I don't know what to do. You know, and the answer is always humans. You know, in some capacity, the answer, you know, you can pick up efficiencies with technology and things like that, and they're great. But at some point, you're still going to max out. And basically, if you're currently working 60 hours a week and you're the only one, it's all dependent on you, and you want to double your revenue, well, you've got to work 120 hours a week, and so that's not practical. So we've got to put these people around us, and so I kind of want to look at some of the different ways that we would do that now versus 10 years ago, and kind of set you up to win in that way. So we're looking here about getting the team around you, because we all know that teamwork makes the dream work, all right? One of those wonderful cliche phrases in the business world. And the reason why they're cliche is because they do have some truth. I know from my experience running a business coaching company, mostly as a sole operator for the first 9 to 10 years, like I have walked this line. Like we were highly profitable. I was massive. I was working really, really hard, putting in massive hours, earning a huge amount of money, but it was super limited. Like there was really no way for me to scale as a single operator. I changed my business model to go to one to many. That was pretty smart, but still it's limited. It's only now that we've got a bit of a team around us that we're actually able to do a whole bunch of new projects and have a huge amount of influence and things like that, right? So we're going to talk into that basically. So where do you go when you want to find some team members? Well, there's a few different options, right? The first place we've got is Seek. Okay, so I'm going to list these out and then we'll go back and work through them. And then we have Indeed. What else have we got? We've got Facebook ads we can run. Let's do LinkedIn ads, which are probably a pretty good idea. I'm going to put this one down. It's not the most wonderful, but it actually works, funnily enough. All right, so on the screen here, we've got a bunch of different options, right? We've got Seek, Indeed, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Gumtree. They're the basic places that you could go. Obviously, that you could go to your local paper if anybody reads in your area. I'm from the Gold Coast. No one reads the paper anymore here, like no one. So you could go to the paper, but let's not pretend that's a good idea. Maybe rural is a good idea. I don't know. Not tested. Seek's obviously the biggest platform and it's the most expensive, right? So Seek is going to cost you the most and give you the greatest reach. It doesn't always work though, right? Like we don't have a strategy that always works 100% of the time, but Seek's probably the greatest way to grab people because it's where most people go. Having said that, the more skilled labor you're looking for, the better Seek works. The more unskilled, the worse Seek works. Think about it. The people that are sitting in front of a computer all day are the ones that are looking at Seek the most. So if the kind of role you're looking for is not, desk-based or computer-based, then they would be less looking at Seek than somebody else. So that's an important part. Indeed is another platform. Indeed came out basically for the technology world, and then they opened up and started doing recruitment for everybody. Indeed are 50% of the price of Seek, and 50% is good. But it's usually casting a bigger net. The people, they're looking on sometimes one or the other, sometimes both, but sometimes one or the other. So you will get to cast a bigger net by going into Indeed. Facebook's an interesting one because if you run, if you run a Facebook post that says we are hiring, it usually, and then you go to promote it, it usually won't go through because they're running their own recruitment templates. They don't want you to just do it. But in my experience, the best way to use Facebook to recruit people is just to do a post, that kind of says, who do you know? And then talk about the role and then say in the text, tag your friends below that would, that would be a good fit. And then put a call to action. Send a cover letter with a 30-second video to this address by this time, something like that. Like put a bit of a call to action. And then if you do Facebook, you don't need to think through interests. You're probably better off to go to geography rather than interest, because you're not trying. If you're looking for a welder, you're not trying to find welders on Facebook, although you are. But if you try and keep it that small, it's not going to work. You actually need to push your ad to every single person, probably between the ages of 20 and 60, in a geographical area, 5 Ks from work, and then tag your friends. Because what happens is Auntie Beryl has a son who is a welder and she sees it, and so she tags her son sees it, applies for the job. Okay, so you're looking to cast a much bigger net that way. So Facebook's good. LinkedIn is good. LinkedIn's quite expensive, but it's actually very good at targeting. Okay, so you can run a recruitment ad on LinkedIn. Again, you've got to drive them to a call to action. But you know, we can talk about those in a minute, but LinkedIn's good. And then Gumtree is super interesting because people are like, really? You can get somebody good on Gumtree? You actually can, and it's the opposite of Seek. The lower skill-based, the better Gumtree works. The higher skill-based, obviously, it doesn't work, okay? You're not really gonna find a great, you know, orthodontist on Gumtree, but, and I'm not trying to put anybody in classes, it's just different strokes, you know, for different folks. But if you're trying to find a cleaner for your cleaning business, right, or a concreter or a renderer or those kind of things, actually Gumtree works incredibly well. And so I'm not interested in whether that's right or wrong, I'm interested in going where the people are, okay? Now here's what's super interesting for me. We live in a world now where business is tough and getting people is tough. There's a lot of job opportunities out there. People are flipping jobs all the time. How do we build a fast growing business and put team around us? You know, back in the old days, and by old days I mean 36 months ago and older, back in the olden days, if you wanted to find a team member, you run an ad and you see who shows up and you hope that somebody good is in the list, and then you hopefully employ them, right? I want to suggest to you that kind of thinking is really slowing businesses down now. I want to suggest to you that you need to always be looking for talent. Talent's the variable, right? There's a lot of people on this planet, but you need to find the right people with the right skills and the right attitude that, you know, that want to be part of your team. And so I think it's far too risky in your business to be thinking, I want somebody in September 2019 to fill this role in my business. And so because I want them in September, I'm going to run my ad in August, right? The problem with that is, what if there was an amazing person that was like full on passionate for your cause and had all the skill set, who was looking in the second week of July? And then they got a job in the final week of July and they went and worked for somebody else and you run an ad 1 week later. Or what happens if you run your ad through August, you start interviewing in September, so your ad runs out, and on the first week of September, an amazing person comes along. See, that's why the model of, you know, a moment in time recruiting doesn't work. I want to suggest to you, and this is a different way of thinking, and this won't always work either, but I think a better model is always be looking for the right people, always be looking for talent, and grab them when they're available, not when you need them. All right, so this is, and by the way, it won't always work. Like if you literally don't have it in your budget to employ them for the next 6 months and you find someone, was probably a wasted exercise. So this is about the kind of business that is putting on people from time to time and being able to be flexible with start date. So if you really want them in August, but you find them in June, you start them anyway, even if it's early, and you live with the downside of that being smaller than the downside of not finding somebody great down the line when you need them, okay? So these businesses these days, the fast ones that we're hearing about, the ones that are growing, they're not employing to a timeline. They're casting a massive net all the time, and then as the good people come up, they grab them, put them in their business, and off they go. It's a very different way of thinking, but you will find better talent. But we've got to start thinking about their timeline and not ours, okay? You know, for example, there is a fellow behind the camera right here. His name is Pat. You haven't met Pat yet. I'm sure you will. At some stage, we'll drag him on this side of the camera. He's already embarrassed by it. Hasn't even been here yet. But you know, like you know, Craig was on. We were growing. Got an office. Built out the studio. Craig's like, hey, I know this guy called Pat. Done some video. Da 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 da. It's like, yep, we'll grab Pat in. Bang. He's got a heart for the kingdom. He's got a heart for the people. He's got a heart for creative. Bang, done. You know, was it my timeline? I didn't even stop to think about whether it was my timeline. Probably I would have waited a month to 6 weeks to 8 weeks. No, here he is, bang, let's go. It's a different style of business building that has traditionally been done, and I believe that you end up with better people if you do it that way, okay? Rather than you deciding when you need someone and finding the best of a bad bunch, always be looking, cast a net across as many platforms as you can, and when you find those people that are fully sold out for your cause and have got the skill sets, put them on early, because the cost of putting them on early is smaller than the cost of not having great people. And that's why it's 2019. And that's the way fast businesses grow now. Did you know that this show goes onto Facebook, it goes onto YouTube, it goes onto Instagram, it goes onto iTunes, and it goes onto LinkedIn? Do me a favor, would you? Tell more people about the show so that I can spread the message. Love ya. See ya.